Now, earlier in the program, we were talking about Bill O'Reilly and how he'd gone on The View and said that Muslims attacked us on 9/11. Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg said, no, wait a minute, it was Muslim extremists. You can't smear all the religion that way. Dylan Ratigan was on Morning Joe, and I thought he made by far the best point on all of this. Okay,
other than whatever we said.
Right. Obviously, we dissected it perfectly.
Nailed it.
Right. So let's go to clip number 7 here and check it out.
I mean, for me, I guess what I would say is there's a core issue here, which is there is a small group of well-funded Wahhabi extremists funded by the Saudi Arabian government to whom we give money. I really guess, listen, you invite me on the show, so what's going to happen, okay? So there's American oil money and American guns to the Saudi Arabian government. Those guns, that money to Wahhabi extremist Muslims in Saudi Arabia, the only ones who have ever killed us, them. We are not at war with Islam. We are not at war with Muslims. We are not at war with Afghanistan. We are not at war with Iraq, Iran. It's nonsense. So yes, they hold signs, I hate America. Have you seen the signs we hold? The only people that have ever funded a terrorist attack out of that part of the world on us, on your colleagues and your colleagues and your colleagues 10 years ago, 9 years ago, was this Wahhabi sect, and it is an extraordinary failure of our politicians and our media and anybody else who has an opportunity to communicate information to fail to make that distinction, because to fail to make that distinction is to risk a scale of conflict and a scale of disenfranchisement and alienation on this planet that may be convenient for TV ratings and votes, but is an abomination for the human beings who will populate this planet, and it's a lie.
Damn. Right? I mean...
it's funny because it is almost exactly what we said, only 1,000,000,000% better.
Yeah. No. And the thing is, like, sometimes on Morning Joe, they laugh when Dylan goes on these rants, right? Except, I don't know if it's nervous stuff, I don't know what it is. I mean, he's 100% right. And maybe it makes people uncomfortable to hear it, right? But... He called them out, not Morning Joe, he called out all of media for covering the entire thing wrong. Right. And he's 100% right.
Right, like even this story here is covered, the O'Reilly View story with Behar and Goldberg, that's covered as they were offended. Nobody's offended. Who gives a crap whether anybody's offended? I don't care that Anderson Cooper was offended. I don't care that any of these people were offended. It's what they said, what he means. Bill O'Reilly is in a position of power and influence, and he's using his power, influence, and his position to misrepresent incredibly important information deliberately to the American people, or ignorantly, one of the two, to the American people. And it's dangerous, and it's dangerous for the Americans in harm's way now overseas, and it's dangerous for us, and it's all just about generating fear and ratings. And if you want to go further and take it down a line that I don't think it needs to about oil and profits, but leave that out. It's because all the Fox cares about, they don't care about that. They care about generating rating, they care about generating fear, which plays into their hands, and if people are afraid, they're going to watch Fox.
I think Dylan goes towards that point too, and I do too, and it's not because Fox wants profits from wars or whatever. The guys who originally came up with that talking point, whether it was Roger Ailes or somebody above Roger Ailes, etc., that talking point got injected into the bloodstream because people had an agenda, and that agenda is broad, right? Maybe it was because defense contractors get rich off of war. Maybe it was, there's oil interests obviously in Iraq. We had a Bush administration official, George H.W. Bush administration official, who when we asked him said, look, there was a lot of conflict in the world. We went into Kuwait. Was the fact that there was oil in Kuwait relevant? Of course it was.
Well,
right?
You're right. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it doesn't matter who started it or whose idea it was or who is playing off whom. But it's always been true we go back into the charlatans at the beginning of the century and in the 19th century, when in the 1820s and 1830s, everybody was looking for a new religion and a new form of religious enlightenment, and there were a zillion different religions then, and the one that stuck was Mormonism out of that period. But everybody was looking for something else. But if you gain an audience, before television, before radio, if you gain an audience of followers who are confused and fearful and can be led easily and misled easily, or misled, period, you can turn that into power and money for yourself. And that's what Fox is doing. And I don't know who, and maybe it's the people you're talking about figuring that out and using organizations like Fox and before that Limbaugh, or whether it worked, doesn't matter. The interests are exactly the same.
And look, I'll go further too. So first of all, as far as the people that attack us, they had all this propaganda about Iran attacking us, our troops in Iraq. The reality is there was actually a report that came out from our government that said, oh, by the way, the real people funding the attacks against us are actually funding the Sunni insurgents, and that money is coming from Saudi Arabia. Okay,
all money funding Sunni insurgents is coming from Saudi Arabia.
That's entirely correct. And by the way, why didn't Bush do something? I had a friend who emailed me today and said, why didn't Bush do something about this when he had a chance right after 9/11?
Do something about what?
Like,
what are we talking about
here? Okay,
here?
the fact that we're addicted to Middle Eastern oil, we could have gone and done green energy. I'm like, are you kidding me? The fact that the Saudis are the real problem, are you kidding me? The Saudis financed the Bush family. They did. I mean, look, they had money anyway, the Bush family did, but Bush goes bankrupt at one point with one of his oil companies, and a Saudi company came in and said, we got it from here, Hoss. Here's a whole new, here's new financing, right? And what happened? And Michael Moore was right. The first people that Bush took care of after 9/11 was the Saudis. He made sure that the Saudis were safe and put them on a plane and put them back to Saudi Arabia. Look, why don't we talk about the Saudis? Because the people in power don't want us to talk about the Saudis. We make money from the Saudis.
We always say on both sides of the political spectrum, and all of us on both sides are supporters, I'll get it out of the way first, are supporters of Israel's right to exist.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter, no point in even going over it. But we often say that our most important ally in the Middle East is Israel. It's not even really true, because we gloss over who our most important ally is in the Middle East, and that's Saudi Arabia. And that's why we don't go after them.
Right.
Because there's the incredibly delicate balance between the royal family and the Wahhabi terrorists who are funded and exist sometimes in Saudi Arabia, and the balance between the royal family, and they're sometimes interconnected, as the royal family struggles constantly and works to maintain their enormous grip on the power structure and the oil in Saudi Arabia, which eventually, by the way, one would think at some point they'll lose.
All right, by the way, I can't stop. There's two more quick things here. Saudi Arabia, also, by the way, when we went into Kuwait, that wasn't about Kuwait. That was, hey, if Saddam goes into Kuwait, he can go into Saudi Arabia next. That's why we had to stop him in Kuwait, okay?
And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Right, that was a good decision.
By the way, why are we going after Iran? You know who hates Iran? Saudi Arabia. Okay, they're more scared of Iran than Israel is, okay?
But then you're getting into the complicated who's a Shiite, who's a Sunni, and to say nothing of the tribes that fight inside of that, but we don't care about Muslims.
Right. By the way, who's the second largest shareholder in Fox, in News Corp, which owns Fox News Channel? Right, a Saudi prince. Funny, really weird. All right, one last one from Ratigan here, bringing the point home, clip number 8. He says about 3 smart things here.
Information distortion and the fear-mongering and the amount of money and the amount of power that can be accumulated in this country and other countries through the distortion and exploitation of religious fear and racial fear in exchange for having decent, honest exchange of real information, which is, you know what, most Muslims don't even care about you. And the vast majority of the ones that don't like you from the couch, and there aren't that many of them. And the ones that actually want to kill you, about this many, and it's not because they're Muslim, it's because they've been radicalized, and the religion has been used as a teaching mechanism as sure as Christianity or any other religion could be, but it is not the fact that they are Muslims that makes them terrorists. It is the fact that they are terrorists that makes them terrorists. And that is a massive distinction that I think has been uniformly not made in this country, because I think it strikes to the cognitive dissonance of these huge wars. If we're not at war with Islam, well then would somebody please tell me why it is we're a few $1 trillion up and we've got a few thousand dead soldiers to fight all these wars in all these Middle Eastern countries? Because I thought we were at war with Islam, which is why we've got all these tanks and Predator drones flying everywhere. If we're just at war with a narrow group of well-funded, well-organized extremists out of Saudi Arabia and in that region, well then can somebody please explain, it's tough to explain the policies in that context. If we're at war with Islam, if we're at war with the Muslims, well then my goodness, I mean, there's got to be 10 more countries we've got to go to war with, right? It is an obscene concept, and it's shameful to me that anybody from the president down doesn't make an extraordinarily strong distinction between those two things.
Look, I'm enormously biased because Dylan's been great to me, let me fill in for him, etc., right? But that guy is the smartest guy in media.
I'm not loyal to him, and that's brilliant. And and the key is one of the key words. There are many keys, and better to have him explain the keys. But it's the deliberate distortion. And distortion is exactly the right word. For years we said they're either it's either deliberate or they're ignorant. And that's but that's what it is. No matter what, it's distortion, and it's intentional distortion. Bill O'Reilly knows. He's too smart. He's too good a broadcaster. He knows. But again, it's fear. It's we go back to 2004, and it was as evident there as anything. The whole Bush-Cheney re-election campaign boiled down very simply to we're fighting a war, right? They used that, fighting two wars, and we used to joke about it, but it's exactly right. Vote for the other guy, and your kids don't get killed. I mean, it was.
That's what it boils down to.
Protect your family. Vote for us. We'll protect your family. The other guys won't.